Welcome, science students, to the first screencast you're watching in this class this year. This is a tool for you. I'm hoping that after today's class you get an opportunity to watch this video on your own time, maybe one or two more times over the long weekend to help prepare you, to help reinforce all of these concepts that you'll need to know for the test after our long break. Today I'm going to be talking about the process of photosynthesis and the process of aerobic respiration. Lots of vocab terms on this page, and I'm hoping as a clue you can look to the prefixes to help you understand what these words mean. Looking over on the left side, the prefix photo, if you think of a photograph, a photo involves light. So photosynthesis is dependent on light in order for it to take place. Photosynthesis is used by autotrophs. These are all pictures of autotrophs. Autotrophs, without the assistance of any other living thing, can automatically make their own fuel, make their own glucose. They don't need to do any eating. Looking to the right side, aero. The prefix aero means it has something to do with air. It involves air. Aerobic respiration is carried out by heterotrophs. The prefix hetero means other or different. All of these living things need another living thing in order to gain their energy, in order to gain the fuel they need to carry out their life functions. Aerobic respiration is also carried out by autotrophs. Let's look first at this plant cell, hopefully a very familiar model to you. You can probably identify many of the organelles in this picture, like the nucleus here, the control center of the cell. These represent chromosomes. You probably already know about the large plant cell vacuole that usually holds water. You can probably recognize the cytoplasm, the cell membrane, and the cell wall, that rigid protective layer. Here are our mitochondria as well. We're going to look only at the chloroplast, a very important organelle for photosynthesis to take place. Chloroplasts are green, and they contain a green chemical called chlorophyll. That's what this pigment gives them that unique color. And if you think back to our Euglena lab, when we looked at that Euglena water plant under high power objective through the microscopes, we saw these chloroplasts filled with the green chlorophyll pigment. Let's look first at the reactants. This word reactant means ingredient. What are the ingredients for photosynthesis to take place? The first reactant, of course, this is the photosynthesis prefix. The reason that term has photo in it is because of the sunlight. This radiant energy is transferred to the plant, and the plant will turn this radiant energy into chemical energy. A second reactant that plants need in order to carry out photosynthesis is this carbon dioxide gas. 6 molecules of carbon dioxide need to enter the plant cell. The way that they do that, the way that this carbon dioxide is diffused, is through these stomata openings, these openings in the underside of the green leaf. They're very small pores, and through diffusion, the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is absorbed by the stomata and presented into the plant cell. The third reactant of photosynthesis is H2O, 6 molecules of H2O, which of course you know as being water. H2O needs to be absorbed by the root system of the plants. Through osmosis, the roots draw the water through what's called their vascular tissue. That means the tubes that go from the roots up the stems and into the leaves. So via osmosis, the water enters the root system, travels up into the leaves where photosynthesis is going to take place. Once the plant has the 3 reactants needed, it is going to conduct its photosynthesis process. One of the products of photosynthesis is oxygen. 6 oxygen molecules will be made, and those oxygen molecules, through diffusion, most of them anyway, are going to exit through the stomata. There is some oxygen that is maintained in the cell because that oxygen is needed by the mitochondria to conduct respiration. Another product that the plant makes is glucose. This fuel, this sugar molecule is made, and that glucose will also be transferred to the mitochondria for further processing. Just to summarize, we have 3 reactants in photosynthesis: carbon dioxide, sunlight, and water. With the assistance of the green pigment chlorophyll, 2 products are made: oxygen and glucose. And I'm hoping, if you're observant, you may have noticed that some of these letters, which represent different elements, carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen, are present in both the reactants and the products. In fact, all of them are. And this is a very important feature of chemical reactions. It's called the law of conservation. So this carbon atom is simply rearranged into a different chemical in its products. Let's look now at aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration takes place in animal cells. It also takes place in plant cells, and you can tell because the plant cells have these mitochondria. So hopefully you remember some of the organelles specific to animal cells: the cell membrane, the nucleus, the chromosomes, the cytoplasm, and this is one single mitochondrion. If you have many, it's called mitochondria. If you have one, we're looking at one mitochondrion. We have 2 reactants for this process to take place. The first reactant is a gas reactant, a gas ingredient, oxygen. Of course, we mammals inhale oxygen, and through diffusion, the oxygen passes into our red blood cells. Our red blood cells will circulate throughout our body, visiting all of our organs, and dropping off also through diffusion through our cell membranes. Let's say this is a muscle cell, right? So that blood will transfer the oxygen through diffusion and pass into the cell membrane, into the cytoplasm. Oxygen is a nice small molecule. It has no problem diffusing through the cell membrane. A larger molecule, which needs to be ingested by heterotrophs, cannot pass as easily through the cell membrane. That's why our animal cells will require, it's necessary for active transport to take place in order for that large glucose molecule to pass through the cell membrane and enter the cell's cytoplasm. Sometimes this glucose needs to go against its concentration gradient in order to enter the cell as well. You can imagine maybe if there's a lot of glucose inside of the membrane and just a little bit of glucose inside, that glucose is still going to travel into the membrane, so it's going to need to go against its concentration gradient, another feature of active transport. Our cell now has the 2 reactants needed for aerobic respiration, and it is going to build some products. One of the products is carbon dioxide gas. This carbon dioxide gas will collect in the cell. It will diffuse out through the cell membrane. Our red blood cells will collect the carbon dioxide gas. It will diffuse into our lungs, and we exhale carbon dioxide gas as a byproduct, as a waste product. Another waste product is water. 6 water molecules are produced. We know that we need to drink water to stay hydrated, but in this reaction, water is actually a product or a waste. And we know through osmosis the water will travel out of the cells. How do we expel water? Well, of course, you use the restroom to get rid of water. But other ways that our body expels water is as we exhale. If you've ever stood on a cold soccer field or waited for your bus, maybe you noticed that when you breathe out, you start to see this smoky looking gas. Those are actually the water molecules, very small particles of water leaving and starting to crystallize or freeze in the cold temperature. And of course, the whole reason why this process needs to take place is in order to make our energy currency, the ATP. The cell is going to use this ATP in order to conduct its life functions, in order to grow, in order to maintain its energy demands, in order to move our muscles or for our neurons to pass chemical signals from one to the other. ATP is needed for all of those processes. Just to summarize aerobic respiration, we have 2 reactants, glucose and oxygen. The chemical reaction takes place, giving us three products: ATP, our energy currency, carbon dioxide gas, 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of water. And again, if you look to those individual elements, hopefully you're seeing that those oxygen, carbon, and hydrogen atoms are also present in the products. They have just been rearranged.